Good evening and welcome to the Mary Murphy Files on PIX 11 Facebook Live. We have a co-host tonight, my esteemed colleague James Ford.
Hello.
Who broke a story this week, and he notified us yesterday about this terrible incident in the Bronx where the mother of a murder suspect was shot through a peephole. And we don't know who did it. We don't know if she was the intended target.
Right.
But there's a lot going on. You just came back from the Bronx. We're going to talk about that. But let's give a little bit of the backstory on this family. The victim's name, Wendy Martinez.
Yes.
And Manny Gomez, you met him today. He explained how this family had faced some threats in the past. Let's go to the piece.
This family has received numerous death threats, which was told to the police and the DA's office.
Wendy Martinez, a 45-year-old mother of two sons, looked through a peephole and was killed by a gunshot to the face.
We are nervous now because, we have kids, wife.
The masked gunman used an umbrella to block his face at the door of the Concourse Village apartment. Martinez's oldest son, Brian Solano, is awaiting trial in the 2014 fatal shooting of a local gang member's brother. Private Eye Manny Gomez said the gun belonged to someone else.
The shooting happened here, and then the murderer runs to the side of the building.
PIX 11's James Ford spoke to the accused killer after he was released last fall on his own recognizance. Gomez had a witness on tape saying that she was forced to implicate Solano.
I was high, I was smoking weed.
Solano had spent 3 years in jail on the charges pending trial.
They gave me a ticket for Metro North. I took the Metro North all the way to Harlem, 125th Street.
A law enforcement source told PIX 11 Monday the family had not reported any threats since 2015, adding Brian Solano was not necessarily the target since he wasn't living with his mother, Wendy Martinez. The source added, I believe her son is definitely guilty of the 2014 murder. And the son was supposed to appear in court today, and you were there, James. What happened?
Right. Well, because of a bereavement exception, for obvious reasons, that hearing has been moved back a week. So we'll be there next Monday for sure.
You did something very interesting in your live shot. You were blocking your face with the umbrella. It was raining, but this killer used an umbrella.
Exactly. And by all accounts of our various sources and law enforcement on the street, yeah, this whoever did this, it was rainy. This happened around 9:40 on Saturday night. It was raining really hard, you may recall. And so this person took advantage of that to conceal his identity. That building has a lot of surveillance cameras, a very sophisticated surveillance camera system. Well, someone let him in, but the fact of the matter is the surveillance cameras caught the whole thing of him going from the door to the apartments on the first floor, but he kept that umbrella. There's even a camera right above the entrance to this woman's apartment, Wendy Martinez's apartment. Still the umbrella, so it might be tough to.
It was
find
almost
this
ingenious the way it was done. We have photos of the victim, Wendy Martinez. She worked at Lincoln Hospital
Yeah,
as
she was
a
a
clerk.
clerk. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really heartbreaking, and sort of we're wondering, do you think she was the intended target because her son was not living there?
Right, but he spent a lot of time there. And in fact, in the interview that you saw there with him, that takes place in that apartment. And today we were there at the apartment. That security peephole device has been removed for evidence.
Right.
And what's left is a hole. And you can look right in that hole and see right into the apartment. It looks just like it did a year ago, which is when we interviewed him.
Yeah, and everyone's saying that's involved with the case that this involves gang activity. I mean, we spent the whole summer covering Junior and the
Absolutely.
Trinitarios.
Right.
In this case, they were called the Mount Eden Boys.
Edenwald.
I've heard both names.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. Apparently, it is a group that is somehow allied with the Bloods. And look, just like we saw in the Junior case, there's a lot of gang activity throughout the Bronx, and there are perfectly innocent people who know gang members and may even be friends with them. Does that mean that they're involved in a gang? Does that mean that they're participating in illegal gang activity? Not necessarily. And so there's still there's a lot of gray area here, but there is a decent amount of evidence that might indicate that Brian Solano, son of Wendy Martinez, did not commit the murder that he's accused of. We'll just have to see in court.
Yeah, because there was that one witness who apparently initially told the grand jury that he had put a gun in her purse after this shooting in 2014 that killed Willie Laura. but then she recanted and said she felt duress or felt that she had been forced.
Right. She said that she felt she'd been forced. She said that she'd been high when a lot of when the killing had taken place, and that she'd felt pressured by the lead detective in this case, a person named Carlos Faulkner, who has been under investigation in other cases, including a case that we've talked about on this show before, Inger Javier, who ended up also being accused of a major crime and got exonerated. The city ended up having to pay him more than $800,000 in restitution.
Yeah.
That same detective was involved in that case as well as this one.
Well, what's so sad here is that the youngest son, who's only, about 14 or 15 years old?
Right, he'd be
and
15.
He heard this, he witnessed it, and called 911. And from all accounts, he's a good kid, was doing very well in school.
Yes, straight A student.
Right.
And
he's the
standout athlete at KIPP Academy.
And you spoke to the godmother, and we have your piece that you filed today from the Bronx. We want to play that, James.
Okay.
Our family is in pain, and Wendy Martinez was a great daughter, a super mom, a working woman, the best sister ever.
That's word from the woman closest to Wendy Martinez, the mother of two who was shot at point-blank range through her own security peephole when an allegedly disguised man pulled the trigger when she came to the door. While this is a sealed crime scene now, we've actually taken you in here before under very different circumstances.
You're getting released on your own recognizance.
That's from an interview inside the apartment a year ago with Wendy Martinez's son, Brian Solano. He'd just been suddenly released from jail, where he'd been held on murder charges for 3 years, but evidence of possible witness coercion and other illegal practices cast doubt that Solano had killed Willie Laura, an alleged gang member. Still, gang members are suspected of being behind this latest killing.
The Eden Wall Gang, which is also affiliated with the Bloods, who actually killed this mother. This was a retaliation killing.
Private Detective Manuel Gomez found the evidence that led to Solano's sudden release from jail.
Solano is devastated. The whole family is devastated.
For now, family members have set up a GoFundMe account to help with funeral and related costs, and they're doing one more thing regarding the killer.
I'm going to pray for him day and night. He won't be able to sleep. He won't be able to eat. He's going to turn in himself, or someone will turn him in.
We're getting a lot of reaction on this, and it remains to be seen whether the killer will turn him or herself in, or herself.
But the power of prayer, she says, and hopefully it works.
We're getting a lot of reaction on this story. Vincent Chiamento is writing, "These gangs are heartless and ruthless. It's a sad world that we live in." And someone else, Freddie Ng, wrote, "So the killer didn't make a mistake then." It doesn't really make it clear what he's talking about. What's not clear is whether the mother said anything at the door. How sometimes you say, "Who's there?"
Right.
The killer would know if it was a female voice or a male voice.
That's so true. That's so true. And look, if it's a revenge killing, maybe they wanted to get to her, get to someone else through her. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, and also the brother was killed of an alleged high-ranking gang member. And so now this is a way of hurting the accused killer even more. You take his mother. That's the central person in your life.
Right. We've seen it in other cases.
If you want to really punish them, this is almost the most devastating form of punishment.
Absolutely. And she's a real sort of pillar of her community, of her building, of her neighborhood. Rock solid. She's the person who first engaged Manuel Gomez. She became his client. She went to him and said, "Look, my son didn't do what he's accused of. Please help us." And I know Gomez does have a long history of helping, of only taking on cases where he is convinced that the person has been wrongfully
He is a little bit of a
accused.
controversial figure, though,
That is
right?
true.
I mean, not everyone in the police department is thrilled
Also
with his
true.
tactics.
Or
even
in various district attorneys' offices.
Right, I mean, so he has a little bit of a reputation, right?
Sure, I'd say that's true. Both not so great with some members of law enforcement, and certainly great with a lot of people in the community. And
And
sometimes
he's won some lawsuits, so.
He's definitely
Yeah.
won and gotten a variety of cases overturned that were wrongfully carried out.
I heard that he does get involved in Trinitarios cases. Have you ever heard that?
Oh, absolutely.
People that were connected to the Trinitarios gang, allegedly.
Look, he's really become sort of an expert on the Trinitarios' presence in the South Bronx, and was the very first person to come to PIX 11 News regarding Junior's case. I mean, that's how the whole thing began. Is Manuel Gomez came to us and said, "Hey, look, this is beyond just any crime. This is really resonating in the community," and he had plenty of contact regarding Trinitarios.
Yeah, we have a guy named L.J. Marquez, or a woman, saying this BS got to stop. Ivy Foreman, so sad. LeGrand, Taja, this is very heartbreaking. Someone's observing that we've become fixtures in the Bronx. We've spent a lot of time there this year.
It is really true. We are quite a presence, and in fact, that's part of the reason we end up getting a lot of tips about particular cases up there, because, and we thank you, because plenty of folks in the Bronx are devoted PIX 11, PIX11.com, PIX 11 app fans, and we do appreciate it, but it's just so sad to be in this position.
Yeah,
noting
and
the
some more
nature of the
comments.
story.
Stephen Wainwright, I'm sorry the mom lost her life. The family should have been removed from that location. My prayers go out to the family. Kiari Rasha B says, the holidays are around the corner. I can't imagine what this family is going through. My condolences. And then Susie Serrano observes, condolences to all the families of the victims. And there are so many victims. And there you see the latest, a mom, Wendy Martinez, 45 years old.
And what was going to be turning 46 tomorrow.
Her birthday was tomorrow.
Her birthday was tomorrow. The family has set up a GoFundMe page. They are not of great means, to both help pay for funeral expenses and to help move the 14, he's almost 15, but 14-year-old out from the Bronx to live with family elsewhere. They
Moving
feel
him
that,
out of state.
yes, they feel that it's just not safe.
You know, it's really sad because he's being uprooted now from everything he's known.
Right, and he's been doing so well. He's a great athlete, a great student, and the family's just feeling like, look, it's just not safe for him. We need to be able to move him out, and so that's part of the GoFundMe as well. It's just really tragic that would happen just before her birthday.
And Brian Solano was supposed to have a court date today. It was just a status hearing. It wasn't like the trial wasn't starting, right?
Correct. But it would be this status hearing would potentially set up a schedule for trial, for hopefully a real tight examination of the evidence both for and against him. That at least according to Mr. Solano and certainly to the private investigator Manuel Gomez, might have gotten the charges dropped.
Yeah. You mentioned that the 14-year-old son may be moved out of state, and it brings me back to the Junior case because people associated with that case had to leave town. There was a guy that was the last person to spend some time with Junior before he met his fate, and he was threatened because he's the one who had called Junior out of the house.
Right,
And they were
yes,
hanging out
yes,
together for
right.
about an hour and a half. So he was getting blamed. People were making accusations. He set Junior up, even though the police don't think that's the case. So people are moving because of this gang activity in the Bronx. There was the other kid, Isayed Hoke. He was stabbed 2 days before Junior's murder on the Bronx River Parkway.
Okay.
He went to another state. His mother fought to get him into high school because they were going to leave him back, and now he's apparently in high school.
Sure.
She won the fight. So it's really sad what's happening.
It really is because, one, we love the Bronx, and we love our viewership there, and it's a great place. And it really is too bad that someone has to leave wherever they're from in order to secure their safety, but that is the case here.
And we have the pictures of the mom, and just once again, I mean, the mother, I guess, made the decision to stay in that apartment. Would she have wanted the option to go in some kind of a witness protection program? She wasn't a witness.
Right.
She didn't see the shooting.
Right.
But her son was the suspect.
Sure, and according to the family, they had in the past requested more security because they'd gotten death threats off and on. So there's a sadness there. Bottom line, this is just tragic. I was also told that the younger son had also said, "Oh, I'll go get the door," and the mom was like, "No, I'll get it. You know, it's late enough at night on a Saturday. I'll go to the door." And
Oh, it's
so
it's
sad.
you almost get the sense that they just wanted to make sure someone in that family was killed. It didn't have to be the person that was the suspect.
right.
They wanted someone
Oh
to
yeah.
sort of impact the whole family
Sure.
with this death, and they certainly succeeded.
They succeeded, and in just the most brutal way. I mean, I hate to be morbid here, but when you consider, we often talk about cases where, unfortunately, victims are killed at point-blank range. Well, nothing's more point-blank, right, than if you're looking
In a peephole.
and there's a gun on the other side. I mean, it's awful.
Yeah, it made me think of, like, when have we heard of a case like this? I remember years ago involving traditional organized crime, I think a prosecutor's father was killed, and it may have been a mistaken identity. Like, I've heard of cases like this, but not quite like this,
Yeah.
where the
Yeah.
mother of a murder suspect is killed like this,
Sure.
with her boy in the room, in his bedroom.
No,
Or-
we can't overstate how tragic it is, and that whole community is just feeling like,
Because it was considered a safe building.
it's on Grand Concourse, and it's a lovely building. It is just across the street in Catter Corner from the main historic courtbright where the Bronx Borough
Oh, I know
President's
exactly where
office
that is,
right?
yes.
And nobody thought, and when we did that interview with Brian Solano a year ago in that apartment, we were impressed. I think we could say, in full disclosure, we had a senior manager from here who was shadowing us to see what we do. He was very, very interested, hands-on manager. And we all went into that apartment and were just so impressed with how nice it was, how nice the building was, how safe and secure the building seemed, how extensive the surveillance system was. And then this.
All we can say at this point tonight is our condolences go out to the family of Wendy Martinez
Indeed.
and all the neighbors impacted by this.
Yes.
And I know you'll stay on the case, James, and we've been staying on all the gang-related cases this year.
Absolutely.
And it'll be interesting to see if an arrest is made.
The
if
sooner the
someone gives
better.
up information. So I thank you for being with us tonight after your day in the Bronx. I know you were out in the rain. So thank you for coming back and joining us
Thank
for
you for
Facebook
having me.
Live.
Thank you.
And it's always wonderful having you here. And I thank our viewers for once again being here. We'll be back next Monday with another edition of the Mary Murphy Files. Thank you and good night.
Good night.